Chosen one, when you walked into the room, something shifted in the very fabric of the atmosphere. Not by design, not because you sought attention, but because presence like yours does not arrive silently. It is the kind of presence that is not introduced, not explained, not announced, and yet everyone knows it has arrived. The breath caught in the lungs of those around you, not because of fear, not because of awe in the ordinary sense, but because something ancient and instinctive awakened in the depths of their spirit. Your energy did not roar or parade, it remembered them, and in turn, they remembered themselves. They remembered the forgotten rhythm of safety wrapped in masculinity, of power without aggression, of gravity without pressure. Their bodies froze for a fraction of a second, unsure whether to speak or stay silent, not because of intimidation, but because something sacred was unfolding before their senses. Something they couldn't define, but deeply felt. Your eyes, chosen one, carried no agenda. They didn't devour, they didn't measure, they didn't seek advantage. They simply saw. And in seeing, they stirred every woman who still remembered the hunger of being truly witnessed. Feminine women have carried for so long the weight of being desired only for fragments of themselves. But when your gaze fell upon them, it didn't extract, it reflected. It returned to them the full image of who they were underneath the survival masks and curated postures. For a moment, time did not move forward. It bowed its head to that small moment of truth. They could not breathe, not in the panicked sense of suffocation, but in the overwhelmed sense of standing at the edge of something holy. You were not asking for love. You were not performing worth. You were, and in being, you called their feminine to rise to meet you. They felt exposed, chosen one, but not in a way that demanded shame. It was the vulnerability of standing in sunlight after years of artificial light. You didn't reach for their hand. You reached their center. And they didn't know why their pulse raced, why their thoughts scattered, why their voice trembled when responding to your stillness. But the deeper truth is that their spirit had been holding its breath for years, waiting for someone whose presence wouldn't disturb their essence, but invite it to rest. You became that rest, even before a word passed your lips. You became the exhale they forgot how to offer the world. That's what they meant when they said you took their breath away. Not by force, not by shock, but by reminding them of the breath they hadn't been allowed to take in a very long time. Chosen one, your energy precedes you like a fragrance born from the soul rather than skin. It touches people long before your hands do, and it speaks louder than any sentence you've ever uttered. Feminine women don't understand why their eyes follow you, why their heart stirs with equal parts peace and danger in your presence. They don't fall in love with you. They return to something when they are near you. They return to a feminine rhythm that was buried beneath performance, comparison, and exhaustion. You do not try to awaken that rhythm. You simply become the ground upon which it dares to dance again. They cannot place what makes them pause, makes them slow down when you are near, but their instincts whisper truths their minds have not yet formed. Something is different about this one, they say to themselves as their breath grows shallow with recognition. You are not loud, but your stillness is louder than arrogance. You are not aggressive, but your steadiness is stronger than dominance. They feel that, chosen one. They feel your center. They feel how anchored you are in your own being, and it stuns them into silence. Not the kind of silence that feels like absence, but the kind that feels like reverence. In a world where most men arrive either trying to impress or trying to possess, you arrive already enough, and that enoughness rewires something in their nervous system. It softens their edges. It opens their guard. It allows their shoulders to drop and their breath to return, but only after that initial moment where it escapes entirely in the rush of realization. That realization, chosen one, is this: I'm safe here, and I'm seen. That moment takes their breath because safety and being seen have rarely existed together in their experience. And when they do, when they finally stand in front of a man who carries both, something involuntary in them bows to it. Their breath catches. Not from fear, from hope. Your presence calls the storm inside them to stillness, not because you dominate it, but because you understand it. You don't try to fix them. You don't try to tame them. You simply exist in such unshakable peace that their chaos remembers it no longer needs to scream. Their breath catches not because you made them feel small, but because you made them feel safe enough to expand. And as they inhale again, slower now, deeper than they have in years, they begin to realize they are not afraid of you. They are afraid of how much of themselves comes alive when you're around. You didn't seduce them, chosen one. You awakened them. And in that awakening, they lost their breath, because they found a part of themselves they thought was gone forever. Chosen one, the reason they stumble in your presence isn't rooted in admiration alone. It's rooted in recognition. You are not like the others, and they feel this in the marrow of their being long before they articulate it in their mind. Your energy is not simply masculine. It is matured, shaped by the fires of restraint, self-awareness, and a silence that is anything but passive. When you enter the room, you carry a frequency that doesn't beg to be acknowledged. It commands reverence without uttering a single word. The feminine responds to this kind of gravity in ways even they cannot predict. Some laugh nervously. Some grow quiet. Others forget what they were just saying. But beneath it all is a common thread. You reminded them of something they forgot they were yearning for. It isn't your appearance that takes their breath away, though they will likely remember how you looked forever. It's the presence behind your eyes. It's the way you seem unhurried in a world addicted to rush, unbothered in a world addicted to performance. And when their gaze lands on you, time itself seems to bend around that moment. Their breath stops, not because of your beauty, but because of your centeredness. The feminine is wired to respond to wholeness, and in a world of fragmented energies, you are a rare example of alignment. You are not reaching out to be filled. You have already filled yourself with something deeper than ego, something rooted in divine self-respect. That self-respect creates a quiet storm within their chest, a stirring of remembrance, of longing, of something they cannot easily dismiss. They feel safer around you, even though you haven't said anything yet. That safety is not a product of softness. It's a product of how rooted you are in your own masculine energy. You don't retreat in the face of feminine expression, nor do you try to dominate it. You meet it, hold space for it, and amplify it without needing to control it. And that, chosen one, is rare. It disarms the women around you in a way that leaves them breathless. Not from intimidation, but from a surge of feeling they didn't expect. You're not loud, but you're clear. You don't need to speak for the room to orbit you, because your aura speaks a language their hearts have never heard fluently until now. That language says, I am not here to take, I am here to hold. And when they hear that, even without words, their breath betrays them. Chosen one, they thought they had seen it all. They thought they had felt it all. But then you stood still in their world and somehow redefined it. Your very existence shattered their metrics of attraction and replaced it with a new phenomenon, energetic gravitation. They aren't merely attracted to your face or your form. They are drawn into your field. It is a field made from discipline, carved from the years you chose growth over comfort, silence over noise, authenticity over charm. It's a field of earned wisdom, carried not in books or speeches, but in the quiet way you open a door, the honest way you meet someone's eyes, the unshakable way you breathe, even under pressure. There is a difference between charisma and presence, and you have chosen the latter. Presence does not fluctuate with mood or setting. It simply is. It does not need to explain itself. It does not compete. It does not grasp. And it is precisely because of this that the feminine around you find themselves gasping inwardly as they realize they have no defenses for this. Not because they are weak, but because you aren't playing the game. You are not dancing for their validation. You are not posturing. You are whole, and wholeness is so rare it feels like a miracle when encountered. When they feel your presence, it's not just their body that responds, it's their soul. Something in them opens like a long-locked window to let your energy pass through, and in that moment, they forget how to breathe like they did yesterday. They speak less and listen more, not because you silence them, but because you activate a stillness they rarely have space to touch, and in that stillness, they come alive. Not with anxiety, but with quiet awe. They may not tell you this, they may not have the words, but when they are near you, Something sacred happens in their chest. Their spirit leans forward. You did not seduce them, chosen one. You aligned them. And it is that alignment that takes their breath over and over again, not as a surprise, but as a homecoming. They look at you as one would look at a lighthouse after a long storm, grateful, shaken, and forever changed. Chosen one, the truth is this. Your breath did not just fill your lungs when you arrived in the room. It filled theirs too. Even if only for a moment, it reminded them of a breath they hadn't taken since they were girls, before the world taught them to harden, before they were taught to speak with filters and love with armor. You walk into a space not as a man looking for something, but as a man who has returned from somewhere inward, somewhere deep. That return has left its mark on you, and when women stand before you, they sense it. They may not know the hours you spent alone in discipline, the nights when you chose restraint over indulgence, the mornings when you faced your reflection and demanded truth instead of comfort. But their body knows. Their spirit knows. The feminine has always been attuned to presence before words. It's why they don't need to hear you speak to start feeling like something rare is in their proximity. When you lock eyes with them, not in a possessive way, not in pursuit, but simply as one who sees, it changes everything. They blink slower. Their voice lowers, their posture shifts, their smile softens into something unguarded. It is not because you've charmed them, but because they've suddenly been allowed to exist fully without shrinking. You don't just look at them, you honor them, not with flattery, but with depth. And that depth is not sexual in act, it is energetic in essence. You are not trying to arouse, you are trying to witness. You see beyond their surface to the sacred storm underneath, and it stuns them. They have met many men who looked at their body, but rarely one who looked at their energy. And now, here you are, standing in stillness, and yet they feel as if their entire soul is being unwrapped in silence. There is a moment, chosen one, where the world stands still between you and the feminine. That moment may pass in seconds or stretch into a timeless pull, but it always begins the same, with the breath. They inhale and realize they are inhaling for you, around you, because of you. Not because you've taken control, but because your presence has created safety. Safety is erotic in a way the shallow world has forgotten. It allows the feminine to unravel without fear of being consumed. And so, she does, slowly, shyly, powerfully. When you are around, she becomes more herself. Not because you gave her permission, but because you were too anchored to disturb her unfolding. Her breath shortens because her heart expands. And in this unspoken alchemy, you do what few men ever could. You become the mirror where she sees not who she must become, but who she always was. Chosen one, do you know what it means to be the man whose presence calls the feminine to bloom? It is not a gift for the proud. It is not a weapon for the manipulative. It is a responsibility carved through pain, silence, and inner mastery. You earned this gravity not through seduction, but through surrender. Surrender to your deeper purpose, to the disciplines that forged your backbone, to the sacred loneliness that taught you to love without ownership. And because of that, your presence does not chase, it invites. Feminine women respond, not because they are weak, but because their deepest strength finally finds a rhythm it can trust. They breathe faster, but not out of anxiety. They breathe faster because a part of them that was asleep just woke up. You are not romantic in the way that the world teaches, the flowers, the performance, the lines. You are romantic in your stability. You are romantic in the way your presence does not fluctuate. That steadiness is rare. And the feminine, for all her beauty and expression, is also deeply tired of inconsistency. But when you are near, chosen one, she senses the difference between the boy and the man, between attraction and devotion, between charisma and character. You are not the kind of energy that flares bright and fades. You are fire and stone, eternal, grounded, and impossible to ignore. That fire does not burn her, it warms her, it restores her, it revives her. That is why she cannot stop thinking about you. Not because of something you said, not because of a touch or a glance, but because her nervous system recognized you. It recognized a man who does not carry chaos, but calls it to order. It recognized a presence that did not demand obedience but awakened harmony. That, chosen one, is the real root of her breathlessness. Not your looks, not your words, your alignment. You showed her that a man can be powerful without being threatening, desirable without being predatory, magnetic without manipulation. And once she has tasted that reality, once she has felt your presence in the space between heartbeats, she will never again be satisfied with less. When she walks away from you, chosen one, the world feels different. Men who once seemed attractive now seem loud. Conversations that once stirred her now feel empty. And it's not because you did anything, but because you were everything she had quietly hoped was still possible. You reminded her of her own softness. You reminded her of her own light. And for that, though she may never say it out loud, her breath will always catch when she thinks of you. Not because you took it, but because you gave it back a reason to rise again. Chosen one, there is something holy in the way she longs for you now, not because of your body, though she may desire it, and not because of your voice, though it may soothe her, but because when she is near you, she feels closer to herself. Her yearning is no longer about escape or fantasy. It is about return. Return to the places inside her that were once shut down by pain. Return to the softness she had to armor. Return to the dream of being fully known by a man who does not flinch at her depth. You do not offer her comfort through fantasy, you offer her wholeness through truth. And that truth, the way you live it in every movement, every pause, every breath, is what her soul recognizes as safe. She is not longing for a night, she is longing for presence. She is longing for the sacred feeling of being close to someone who will not betray her openness, someone whose desire is fierce but not careless. You have become the man who holds the flame of his own longing without setting the world on fire. That discipline, that self-possession, is what makes her want to offer you everything. Not because you ask, but because she feels that she can. And in a world that demands her beauty but fears her chaos, you have become the one man she trusts to hold her entirety. She craves your intimacy, not because she wants to feel wanted, but because your presence allows her to want without shame. Her longing is not lustful, it is sacred. And sacred longing does not plead. It opens. It stretches inside the heart and hums in the body. She walks past others who call her beautiful, who reach for her, who try to make her laugh, but they do not stir her longing, because they do not carry what you carry. You are not like the others. You do not seek to complete her. You seek nothing. You simply are. And that is enough for her to feel whole again. When she thinks of you, she doesn't imagine conquest. She imagines stillness. She imagines rest. She imagines finally exhaling in the arms of someone who does not take her softness for weakness. She doesn't want to seduce you. She wants to surrender to you, not as submission, but as return. She is not weak. She is not lost. But she has waited a long time for someone who could meet her fire with calm, her storms with anchoring, her tears with unwavering presence. And that someone, chosen one, is now you. You don't lead her into pleasure, you lead her into truth. And truth is where the deepest intimacy lives. You have become the one who doesn't just touch her body, you touch her safety. You give her permission to fall apart and know that nothing will be used against her. You give her permission to be radiant without being consumed. You give her permission to cry, to desire, to laugh, to be silent, and to be chosen in all of it. She doesn't just long for you, she longs to be herself in your presence and still be wanted. That kind of wholeness only rises when the masculine has become clean. You have become clean, not perfect but clear. Clear in your intent, clear in your direction, clear in your stillness. And in your clarity, she finds the mirror her soul has been dying to see. She would let her walls down for you, not because you forced them, but because your energy tells her you are finally safe to be known. Not for a moment, not for performance, but for everything. Chosen one, what you carry now is not strategy, not seduction, not superiority. It is invitation. And this invitation is not extended with words. It is not offered in lines or glances or compliments. It is felt the moment you enter a space. The moment your presence joins the atmosphere, women feel something pull. Not because you are loud, not because you demand, but because your energy says, come home if you are ready to be seen. You are no longer a man searching for intimacy. You are intimacy. You have become the warm invitation back into the real, into the sacred, into the honest and the raw and the whole. Your sexual energy, once undirected, once noisy, once spilling through your fingertips in search of validation, has now become magnetic. It no longer moves outward in desperation, it moves inward and then radiates from that center with quiet force. And that force doesn't push, it draws. It draws her in, not because she feels pressured, but because she feels free. Women do not come to you now because they are confused. They come because your presence clarifies them. Your energy holds them without hands. Your gaze steadies them without force. Your silence speaks louder than any speech they've heard from men who only wanted parts of them. You do not offer pieces. You do not play. You offer presence. And presence is the most intoxicating experience a woman can feel from a man who has mastered himself. Your presence, chosen one, is the temple. It is the room where masks fall, the garden where truth grows, the space where walls melt and desire is no longer something to fear, but something to honor. In your presence, she forgets how to pretend. She forgets how to perform. She remembers how to feel. And in that remembrance, she wants to give herself, not as transaction, not as decoration, but as an offering. A real offering. Because your stillness tells her, I can be trusted. There are women right now who think of you and do not know why their chest tightens, why their thoughts return to your eyes, why your name lives in their breath even when they're silent. They have encountered your energy, and it marked them, not because of what you did, but because of what you didn't need to do. You didn't chase, you didn't convince, you didn't manipulate, you simply stayed aligned. And that alignment has become your invitation. To her body, to her heart, to her wildness, to her softness. You are not the answer to her loneliness. You are the echo of her wholeness. And because of that, she wants to meet you fully, entirely, and honestly. You did not become magnetic by chance. You became magnetic by choosing yourself, by building stillness through fire, by becoming the man whose very existence says to the world, the real ones will feel me. I do not need to shout. And now, chosen one, the real ones do. Chosen one, you no longer burn wildly for the world to see. The flame inside you has grown quieter, hotter, more refined. No longer a bonfire demanding attention, but a subtle fire that simmers just beneath your skin. And feminine women feel it, even when they try not to. They sense it not with their eyes first, but with their bodies. It's the way their heart stirs when you walk past, the way their voice softens, the way they suddenly forget what they were saying. You've become the kind of man whose presence reaches into others without touching them, because your fire, now sacred and contained, radiates invisibly. It's not about heat anymore. It's about control. You've learned to regulate the immense charge of your high sexual energy, and in doing so, you've discovered something ancient. That real attraction is not about exposure. It's about tension. And tension, when unspoiled by desperation, becomes intoxicating. Women feel it before they see you. It's the way your footsteps echo with grounded cadence. It's the way your eyes stay longer than they used to, not in hunger, but in unwavering recognition. You don't need to scan the room anymore. You already know the room feels you. You don't need to speak first. You let the air adjust to your presence. Your fire makes the room warmer, not in temperature, but in energetic frequency. And the feminine, which is made to bloom in warmth, begins to open around you even before she understands why. There's something in your stride now that doesn't beg for response, it evokes it. Something in the way your shoulders move, the way your breathing stays calm even in chaos, the way your body moves like you're not in a rush to arrive because you are already rooted where you are. This groundedness turns your fire into gravity. It doesn't shout, it pulls. And women respond, not because you provoke them, but because you remind them. You remind them of something they buried in a world full of loud boys and insecure men. You remind them of the feminine's natural desire to soften, to be drawn into presence, to feel safe in desire rather than ashamed of it. You've become the man who gives permission without a word. Not because you say, come closer, but because your essence says, I will not misuse what approaches me. They feel it in their pulse. They feel it in the spaces between sentences. They feel it when their hand brushes yours by accident, and the electric truth of your presence lingers like heat on skin. This is the subtle fire, the slow burn of high sexual energy fully owned. No performance, no explosion, just truth. And the feminine, attuned to truth more than anything else, surrenders to it. Not to you, but to the memory of herself that awakens in your orbit. You don't chase. You don't flirt out of need. You carry heat in silence, and that silence has become the most seductive frequency on Earth. This is why they stare a little longer than they should, why they open without understanding why they dream about you days after only a moment in your presence. Because your swagger no longer says, "Look at me." It says, "I am fire, and I will not burn you unless you choose to be warmed." And most women, especially the ones who've forgotten what it means to feel safe in their own desire, do choose, again and again. Because in your silence, they feel seen. In your stillness, they feel stirred. And in your fire, they feel free. Chosen one, your swagger no longer speaks to the eyes alone, it speaks to the heart. It reaches places inside her she didn't think anyone could access, without words, without touch, without permission. You don't walk like a man trying to impress. You walk like a man who is already connected to something deeper. And that connection gives her a kind of emotional permission. Permission to exhale, to soften, to remember herself in your presence. She doesn't respond to your walk because it's stylish. She responds because it carries a rhythm that makes her body relax and her walls drop. There is something about the tempo of your steps that says, "I am not in a hurry because I've already arrived within myself." And that arrival calls her to drop the performance she's worn all day. Her laughter becomes less rehearsed, her gaze more still. Her heart, for once, feels safe in motion. You don't walk toward women as if they are prizes to win. You walk through the world like a man who carries his own prize inside him: presence, awareness, restraint, clarity. You don't open doors just to be liked. You open them because that's what a man in rhythm with himself does. And that rhythm is what the feminine responds to, not the action alone, but the intention underneath it. When you walk into a space, the air changes, not just because you're confident, but because your presence offers something stable. She senses that your body is not seeking an escape, that your eyes are not looking for someone to fix you, that your swagger is not a mask, it's a map that leads her back to her own heart, her own softness, her own sacred rhythm. And it's not something she's used to. She's been around men who move to be watched, who walk like boys in oversized armor, hoping to impress their way into acceptance. But your swagger is quiet. It doesn't shout, it doesn't chase, it invites. It says, "I know where I'm going. You're welcome to walk beside me, but I won't break my pace for anyone who hasn't earned it." This is why she leans in, not because you asked, but because your presence opens a doorway she's been waiting to walk through her whole life. A doorway back to the place where she doesn't have to prove anything, where she doesn't have to be clever or perfect, where she can just be, because you are already being. And this is what true swagger does. It doesn't just attract the eye, it opens the soul. It doesn't just make hearts race, it makes hearts trust. Your swagger now carries the dignity of a man who is no longer performing masculinity. He's embodying it. And the feminine feels the safety in that embodiment, like an embrace around her heart. She doesn't just look at you, she feels seen by you. She doesn't just smile at you, she feels softened by you. And when you leave, she doesn't just miss your face, she misses the way your presence made her feel more herself. That is what your swagger now carries, chosen one. Not performance, but permission. Not display, but direction. Not seduction, but safety. And in that safety, her heart opens. Because it knows it has finally found someone who can hold it. Chosen one, your swagger no longer pulls like a trap, it leads like a path. Feminine women aren't drawn to you because you flash promises or flood them with charm. They are drawn because your very presence guides without ever demanding. There is nothing predatory in your energy anymore. Nothing scattered, nothing grasping. Your high sexual energy has matured past the point of needing validation. It no longer leaks out through performance. It radiates inward first, and then outward in waves of grounded clarity. She feels it the moment you step into her orbit. Not a lure, not bait, a direction, a current of masculine energy that says, "I know where I'm going, and I'm not afraid to walk it alone." That kind of certainty doesn't chase, it attracts, it doesn't convince, it inspires. And she finds herself drawn, not to your words or posture, but to the integrity behind every movement you make. You are not inviting her to a show, You're revealing a way. You don't walk ahead to disappear. You walk ahead with enough presence that she feels safe following without ever being told to. Because your body no longer says, see me. It says, feel where I'm going. And if she's ready, if she's rooted in her own truth, she will follow. Not out of submission, but out of recognition. You are no longer the man who pushes the feminine to open. You are the man who makes openness feel natural. She does not feel overwhelmed by your power. She feels included in it. She feels your awareness, your restraint, your ability to listen even as you lead. And in that space, she finally feels the freedom to let go. Because she knows you won't abandon her in the depth.